understand this one. Hi, beautiful people. You're welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tapping on this video. I appreciate you a lot. So, in today's tutorial, I am going to be sharing with you on how to draft a basic sleeve pattern. All right. So, this tutorial is going to be a quick one where I'm going to be showing you and sharing with you on how to draft a basic sleeve pattern. All right. So, it's a very simple and easy one to make. So let's go right into the tutorial. But before then, I'd like to say a word of appreciation to you for joining me on this live. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you a lot. I do not take this for granted, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. So let's move right into the video. So let's move right into the tutorial. All right. The first thing to do is you're going to be folding your pattern paper into double folds, just like that. So thank you so much once again for joining me here on this live session. I appreciate you a lot. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to be folding your pattern paper into double folds like this. All right. Now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to determine the length of your sleeve. Okay. So for me, now what you're going to do, you're going to have your sleeve length, the measurement of your sleeve length, which is going to be from your center back to your sleeve, or you just measure from your shoulder down to your sleeve. And for me, from my shoulder down to my sleeve, which is down to the wrists, all right, because this is a long sleeve pattern. So from my shoulder down to my wrist, which is my sleeve length, is 18 inches. So what I'm just going to do first is I'm going to measure down to 18 inches. All right. So here is the here serves as my shoulder line. All right. And now one thing I want to share with you is when you're making a pattern paper, once the edge of your pattern paper is smooth, just like this, there is no need for you to draw a line. All right. But let's assume that the edge of your pattern paper is not smooth. All right, then you can draw out a line that will serve as your shoulder line. All right, so for me, here on my pattern paper, here is smooth, which means there is no need for me to draw out a shoulder line. So I'm going to be taking all my measurements from this edge here. Now moving on, I'm going to measure from this shoulder line here down to my sleeve length, which is 18 inches, and I'm going to mark 18 inches here. All right, so let's assume that I'm going to be adding an extra allowance, so which I'm going to add 1 inch extra allowance. It depends on what you're making. So I'm going to be adding 1 inch extra allowance. Now I'm going to measure the same thing here on this side as well. Here, this is my sleeve length here. And the next thing I'm going to do is for my shoulder line here, I'm going to measure down to my bicep. The bicep is the biggest part of your arm, all right, and it's just a little bit below your shoulder line. So for me, from my shoulder down to my bicep is 5 inches, and I'm going to mark 5 inches here. I'm going to repeat same thing here as well. From my shoulder line down to my bicep is 5 inches, and then from my shoulder line down to my elbow, you're going to be measuring from your shoulder line down to your elbow. For me, from my shoulder line down to my elbow is 12 inches. All right, I'm going to measure same thing here as well, 12 inches. So all these lines that I have, all these marks that I have, I'm going to make them all into a straight line. So I'm going to be starting from my wrist line here, make it into a straight line, then going down to the extra allowance, making it down into a straight line. Down here is my elbow, I'm making it down into a straight line. Here is my bicep as well, and I draw this into a straight line. So I'm going to label these lines now so that we can know which is which. So this one is the bicep line. Here is my elbow line, and here is my wrist line, and here is the allowance I have. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to input in all the old measurements now. So for the measurements, what I'm going to do next is my bicep, my round circumference, which is the round circumference for my bicep, okay, and that is 12.5 inches. You're going to measure your bicep, the round circumference. For me, mine is 12.5 inches, and I'm going to divide that by 2. All right, so you're going to be dividing your bicep circumference divided by 2. So mine gives me 6.25. So and make sure that your pattern paper is on fold, because my pattern paper here is on fold, as you can see. Now from this edge here, I'm going to measure 6.25, and then I'm going to make a mark of my 6.25. Now coming down to my elbow, my round circumference for my elbow is 11.5. all right, and then I'm going to divide that by 2. That gives me 5.25, and I'm going to mark it here. And then I'm going down to my wrist, all right, which is my wrist here. The round circumference of my wrist is 9 inches, and I'm going to divide that by 2, and that gives me 4. I'm going to measure and mark in my 4 here as well. So the next thing I'm going to do here now, I'm going to make all these lines that I have into a straight line. I'm going to connect this to this, and then I'm going to connect this to this as well. Okay, then for my allowance, what I have on my wrist, I'm going to measure the same thing on this allowance, which is 4 inches, and I'm going to connect this into a straight line as well. I want you to stay with me to the end of this video so that you can get all what I'm trying to explain. All right, now after doing all of this, the next thing you're going to do is, you see from this point on your bicep, you're going to connect it with a straight line to the edge of your pattern paper. So I'm just going to do it like this, and from this point I'm going to connect it to the edge of my pattern paper like that. Okay, so I want you to follow me in every step. Now after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to place my tape measure on this line and measure it. So what I have here, I have 8 inches in total for this line. As you can see, from here down to here, I have 8 inches. All right, so Once I have 8 inches, I am going to look for the midpoint of this 8 inches, which is 4. And then I'm going to put a mark there for my 4 inches. All right. And then after doing this, the next thing I'm just going to do is on this mark that I've just made, I'm going to be coming up by half of an inch from this mark, and this is the half of an inch mark. All right. So just make it into a little straight line like that. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be connecting from this 0.5 inches mark that I've made. I'm going to connect it down to this point here, and then I'm just going to connect like that from this 0.5 inches mark. I'm going to connect down here like this. Okay. Now so then from this point, I'm going to connect right to this point as well. From this 0.5 inches mark I have, I'm going to connect to the edge of my pattern paper as well. Now I'm going to make that just like this. So this line that we've just drawn here is for the back armhole. Now we are going on to grasp for the front armhole. Now for the front armhole, I'm going to come here. This point, this line I have here, I'm going to measure this line that I have here. Whatever I have, I'm going to divide that into 2. Okay, so now dividing that into 2 is going to give me 2 inches. I'm going to mark my 2 inches here as well. Now what I'm going to be doing on this 2 inches mark that I have here, I'm going to come down by half of an inch, like from here down here by half of an inch, and I'm going to be connecting, and I'm going to mark the midpoint, which is 2 inches. Okay, now on this 2 inches mark, I'm going to come up by half of an inch. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to be connecting these lines together. So from here, so just connect like this, okay, using your curved rule, and then connect. So connect like this as well. All right. So you can see this S shape that we have. This is for the front, and this other curve shape we have here, this is for the back. Now the next thing we're going ahead to do now is to add our allowance. Okay, we're going to be adding an allowance to this, to our sleeve. Now for the allowance, I'm going to, it depends on your preference, depending on what you want. You can go ahead to add half of an inch as your allowance. You can go ahead to add 1 inch as your allowance. All right, it depends on what you're making with the sleeve. Okay, so let's go ahead to add 1 inch as our allowance. So to add an allowance to this, all right, so I am going to measure 1 inch, which is from this point here. I'm going to measure 1 inch, make a mark. Now coming down to my elbow, I'm going to make from this elbow point here, I'm going to measure 1 inch, make a mark. And then coming down to my wrist, I am going to measure 1 inch, make a mark, and I'm going to do that as well to the allowance I have here, 1 inch. Now what I'm just going to do is all this 1 inch that I've marked, I'm going to be connecting them with a straight line. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be using a marker to trace out all these lines that I have, okay, so that they can be well visible, so that you can see them clearly. They can be well visible to you as well. So you can see that I'm making all the lines we have drawn into a straight line using this marker. All right. Excuse me. So you can see these are the lines we have. So I'm going to be labeling this as well. This is my bicep. This is my bicep line. Here is my elbow line. And here is my wrist line. And here is the allowance. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm just going to do here now, I'm going to be cutting this out. So cutting out, I'm going to be starting from this point. Okay, now I'm going to cut out the allowance. Then I'm going to be cutting out the back armhole first. That is the first thing to do. You're going to cut out the back armhole first. So you can see we've cut out the back armhole. Now when you want to cut out the front armhole, you're going to open it up just like this. Okay, and then you're going to trace out the front armhole as well. All right, so you can see this is what we have. This is the front, and here is the back. So you can see, so the front is going to be having this S shape, like what you're seeing right now, and the back is going to be having this shape. All right, so why this front is going to be having this S shape is because you have, you know, a bigger front. You know, the back, because of the backbones, so the back tend to be straight. All right, but for your front, because of the chest that is on the front, all right, so the front is not straight, especially if for a lady, you know, you have your boobs on your chest. All right, so that is why this curved S shape is going to be going underneath your armpits, right? While this other S shape here is going to be coming up from underneath your armpits all through to your shoulder. But for the back, all right, it's straight. You do not have any boobs or anything whatsoever on the back. So the back is just straight. So that is why coming from the shoulder is going to go down right into the armhole. So that is why there must be a difference, all right, from the front to the back. So this here is the front armhole, and this here is the back armhole. I hope you enjoy this tutorial. I hope you are enjoying this tutorial, and I hope I am passing knowledge to you, and I hope you are achieving and you're gaining knowledge as well. All right, please, I would like to see your comments, or if you have questions for me regarding this, I like to read your questions. I like to see your comments. I like for you to engage on this video. All right, so now you can see here is the bicep, which is very important. Most times while making our sleeve, we tend to ignore this bicep measurement, which is very important. If you want your sleeve to come out fine, if you want your sleeve to come out beautiful, if you want your sleeve to come out very fitting, there is a must for you to measure out your bicep, all right, to know the bicep measurement and to measure out the bicep just like this. And also it's very important for you to measure out your elbow and also to measure out the wrist. All right, so this bicep here, because most times we tend to ignore or forget this bicep measurement. We do not normally measure the bicep, and it is very important. So I hope from today henceforth you start to, and if you, for some that are asking me that, okay, what is your bicep? Your bicep is just like 5 inches from your shoulder blade. All right, it's the biggest part of the arm. Okay, it's the one just like 5 inches below the shoulder. That is your bicep before you get to your elbow. Then measurement of the elbow also is very important, and I'm going to be passing a very important message across here as well. To measure your elbow, you have to make sure your elbow is folded like this. All right, so you're going to measure your elbow folded like this, not measuring it straight. If you measure it straight like this, all right, there is 10. If I measure it straight like this, okay, by the time I fold this elbow, you see that it's going to be very tight. So that is why it's better and it's best for you to measure your elbow when it's folded this way. All right, so when you measure it this way, you tend to get a more accurate measurement, so that when you're done with the making of your sleeve, all right, it will be very easy for you to open up and also to fold in your elbow like this. All right, so now that is another very important information, and I hope you understand how I drafted out the allowance for the wrists. Okay, so let's say maybe you want to attach this sleeve to another material or whatsoever. So that is why, that is how to add your allowance to the wrist. Okay, and then as well, we also added allowance to the bicep. All right, like this is the allowance we added to the side of the sleeve. So this allowance is going to be what you're going to be putting in as the same allowance. So it depends on you. As I said earlier, you might want to put in half of an inch as your sleeve allowance. You might want to put in 1 inch as your sleeve allowance. So let's assume now that you are making for a short sleeve. If we are to be making for a short sleeve, we're going to be going through the same process. The only difference is that we're going to be stopping on the elbow line and not on the waistline. All right, so here is the elbow line, and here on this elbow line now, we're just going to be adding the allowance only. Okay, we're not going to come down to the waistline. So if we are making for a short sleeve, okay, so that is what is going to happen. We're making for a short sleeve. From this elbow line now, we're just going to come down by maybe 1 inch or half inch, depending on how much allowance you want to put. All right, so you're going to be marking it like that, and then you're going to make this into a straight line. You can see, so here is where there is where the sleeve is going to be stopping. You can see, so if we are making for a short sleeve, you can see here is a short sleeve now, it's stopping on the elbow line. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I told you it's going to be a very quick one. I hope you enjoyed my teachings. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I want to really thank you a lot. Thank you everyone for sticking around with me. Thank you so much for joining me on this live session. Thank you so much for engaging on this video. I appreciate you a lot. And I pray for you that may God be with you, and as you have stand and you have stayed with me through to the end of this video, I appreciate you. So please keep your questions coming. I want to read your comments. I want to read your questions. I want you to comment and engaging on this video. So another very important thing I'm going to be chipping in here is the measurement you're going to need, all right, to make to draft a sleeve pattern. Number one, you're going to need your sleeve length, that is from your shoulder down to wherever you want your sleeve to stop to get to. Then number two, you're going to need your armhole measurements, all right. Then you're going to need your bicep, as I said earlier, which is just few distance from your shoulder, all right, down to your bicep. Now then you're going to need your elbow. For your elbow, you're going to be needing both the length and the circumference. For the length and circumference, the same thing applies to the bicep. You're going to be needing the measurement from the shoulder down to the bicep, which is the length, and also the circumference of the bicep. The same thing applies to the elbow as well. You're going to need the measurement from the shoulder down to the elbow, all right, and then the circumference of the elbow as well. Then you're going to be needing the measurement of your wrist, which is from your shoulder down to your wrist, and then you're also going to need the round circumference of your wrist. All right, these are the basic measurements you're going to need whenever you want to draft a basic sleeve pattern. Okay, so and you can see I drafted this sleeve pattern based on my own measurement. So if I were to be a chubby person, so you see that this sleeve will be bigger than what it is. And if the sleeve were to be for a small child, it's going to be smaller compared to what it is right now, because this year that I've made is based on my own personal measurements. All right, so that's why I said that it's very, very important to take measurements of all what you have, all right, before drafting the sleeve pattern. So after drafting the sleeve pattern, the next thing I'm just going to do is to place it on my main fabric, and I'm going to be cutting this out. All right, so that is how to do it. But most times we draft it on the pattern first, so that in case if there's going to be any mistake or any alteration whatsoever, we're going to be doing everything on the pattern paper first before we transfer onto our main fabric. All right, so to avoid damaging of our fabric, to avoid alterations on our fabric, that is why we make use of a pattern paper to draft this pattern, to draft this sleeve, to draft the sleeve first, all right, using the pattern paper. That was why I said earlier, to avoid that in case we have any alteration or any addition or whatsoever, we can make all of that, even our workings, our markings. You can see it will be proper for me to start making all these lines on my main fabric, or for me to start drawing out all these lines on my main fabric. So that is why it's best to first make a pattern paper, so that you can draft your lines, draft whatever you want to do, make your lines on the pattern paper first. Then the next thing, I'm just going to transfer this and place it on my fabric, just exactly like the way it is, and I just cut out, following all the lines, and that is all to it. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know in the comments what else you want me to do for you. Maybe there is another subject you want me to treat, or there's another tutorial you want me to make for you, and I'll gladly do that. Thank you so much for sticking with me to the end of this video. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you so much. Till I see you in my next one, please have a great day. Do not forget to share this channel. Give this video a thumbs up if it has been helpful to you, and also if you get something, give the video a thumbs up. And also please do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you're yet to do so. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Till I see you in my next one, please have a great day. Bye.